Hello, in this video I will provide a brief overview of how I use a ceramic heat emitter to heat my ball python's terrarium. I believe ceramic heat emitters are a really great way to heat an enclosure, and I think they're often overlooked in favor of things such as lights and heat mats. So here's how I set mine up, in case you're wondering why I prefer ceramic heat emitters over other heat sources. Firstly, at least based on my experience, they consume less energy than a heat lamp, and they dry out my terrarium less, which is good if you want to maintain a decent amount of humidity. And unlike a heat mat, it not only creates a hot spot in a small localized area, but actually raises the ambient temperature of the overall terrarium, which is a more natural temperature gradient. Also, it doesn't emit light, which allows you to basically run it whenever you want. So in combination with a digital thermostat, I actually set mine to have day and nighttime temperatures. So even in the wintertime when my apartment gets a bit colder, I don't have to worry about my snake getting too cold in the nighttime. Another advantage is that if you, like me, are in the possession of a cheap OSB terrarium, then the ceramic heat emitter is probably one of the heat sources that will be the easiest to install in that setup. All you have to do is screw it onto the inside of the terrarium top. Note that you don't need the fancy digital thermostat to control your ceramic heat emitter. A standard dimming or pulse proportional thermostat is also sufficient. You can even use an on-off thermostat if you want, but that might shorten the life expectancy of your ceramic heat emitter. And the nice thing about these guys is that they can have much longer life expectancies than your typical light bulb. Regarding the heat emitter itself, I bought one secondhand. I think it's from Zoomed or Exoterra. It came with the ceramic heat emitter and the specialized socket that you need for it. It cost me a $5, but even new, they're not too expensive considering their life expectancy. What you definitely need is a cage to protect your reptile from the ceramic heat emitter, as the surface temperature can get extremely hot and your animal can burn itself. I got the Arcadia cage. Unfortunately, that cage doesn't actually match the ceramic heat emitter I have. If you are buying a cage, make sure that the brand matches the brand of your ceramic heat emitter so you can actually install it more easily. What I had to do in the end was take some wires and kind of create a suspension for the socket. One thing I really struggled with compared to lamps and heat mats was the placement of the ceramic heat emitter. I realized that I really had to place it as closely as possible to my warm spot for it to, first of all, save energy to heat it, but also provide a decent temperature gradient along the rest of the terrarium. At the beginning, I placed it too far in the middle of the terrarium and it just exuded too much heat and I didn't have a good temperature gradient. So they are quite powerful. As you can see, I have a double-decker hide, which means my warm hide is actually right underneath the ceramic heat emitter. And that allows me to get a good gradient going, and the ambient temperature of my terrarium is around 25 degrees Celsius. Regarding the probe, I realized the probe placement is very important, more so than with lamps or heat mats. So I really placed the probe right inside of my warm hide by drilling a hole in the side of the hide and just wedging the probe in. So I know that the ambient temperature in this warm hide is 30 degrees, which seems to be ideal for my snake. Regarding the kind of wattage you will need, that depends very strongly on your temperature requirements as well as the type of enclosure you have. Just for reference, my terrarium is 150 centimeters long and is made of wood, with all panels except the front being oriented strand board. So it's fairly well insulated and I am able to keep my warm spot at around 30 degrees Celsius with a basking temperature of around 35 degrees Celsius using a 100-watt ceramic heat emitter. If you have a glass terrarium, you might need a higher wattage to achieve this same warm spot, but that's really up to the enclosure. So that's everything for now. As mentioned in my previous videos, I am planning to upload the entire OSB terrarium assembly process video at some point in the future. Unfortunately, I'm in the middle of writing my thesis, so I don't know when that will actually be. That being said, I hope that this video was at least moderately useful for people who are considering to install a ceramic heat emitter in their terrarium. I can definitely recommend it. Okay, goodbye.